So, first question will be for François, I think. Do you think you are going to train your students to Rust in the coming years?
Yes, of course. Actually, our students are already being trained in ECE. I just talked with a student this morning. He's in AG3, so he's in the third year. We have a 5-year program. So we welcome a lot of students after their baccalaureate. We are called a post-bac school. And we also welcome some after a preparatory school in France. You have seen maybe this space on the right-hand side over there where we welcome the future students. So this student is in finishing his third year, so first year of engineering cycle. And he told me that he already learned some Rust in his 2 internship period he made with 2 corporations. So when our students go to corporations, maybe one of them was THALES, I don't know, but they try to learn, they begin to code in Rust, and we are going to introduce really specific Rust modules this coming academic year. So yes, of course. And we'll do that also with projects. So I don't know if Luca is still in the room. So Luca was here at the beginning. He's co-managing the project project group in the school, and our students learn a lot in project. So of course we'll introduce Rust in project too.
Okay, so we will have a hiring pool for Rust just in case.
And all the THALES people here are free to propose projects in the ECE, including Rust, of course. So it's part of the collaboration we have with THALES. You're more than welcome to propose some interesting developing project for our students.
As we said in the beginning, we are 2 at the various Conseil of Perfectionnement of ECE. I am attending the one for bachelors, and there's another person for the engineering courses, right?
Yes, and we have especially Juliette Mattioli. He's in the scientific board of the school, so very close relationships.
Okay. Questions?
Thank you very much. My question is not targeted to someone specifically. Have you got some experience on coding on packaging applications which are coded with Rust on containers?
Yes, we use some Rust code in containers for our microservices, and then we use Kubernetes to orchestrate these images, and it works, right? And we make our microservice coded either in Rust or in Go. They can talk with each other. Everything works well.
Questions? If you don't, I have one myself. Paul, could you tell us a little bit about how could an industrial group like THALES be productive as a member of the Rust Foundation? What could we do there?
Well, I mean, joining and giving us money would be great.
Apart from
because
that.
then we can reinvest it. But apart from that, I think training. I mean, well, there's several things. I would say creating opportunities for people to use Rust in the workplace is incredibly important, because you're helping all these people who want to learn Rust realize that there is a career for them, and similarly supporting them through training and through mentorship, I think, is very important. But then in addition to that, being able to devote time back to the project itself, if you have people who can contribute to it. So, whether it's 5% of their time or 10% of their time, or maybe you're able to have a couple of people who can dedicate all of their time to working on the project and supporting it through code contributions, then that's hugely important.
All questions? Come on, guys.
I have a question for you, Daniel, as a CTO software for THALES Group. What is your roadmap on Rust for THALES with all the divisions and all the community of software experts?
I have no roadmap myself. The roadmap is in the hands of the business units of THALES. My hope, I would say, is to make Rust a viable alternative to language that are dying like Ada, and in some cases C++. My hope is that business units in THALES are going to start considering Rust as a potential programming language for new projects, meaning that if many projects start considering Rust, eventually one of them is going to adopt Rust. And we cannot enforce anything. We cannot say, please use Rust. It's not going to work that way. If Rust has a certified or qualified compiler, if the community continues trending, as we saw in your slides, threefold in 3 years, I think. That's it. And if the hiring pool coming from engineering schools, universities, continues increasing, then and ADAS continues decreasing, Rust is going to be the natural solution for us because of the safety, because of security, because of quality, because of hiring pool, because of cost, because of power consumption, whatever. And the fact that it's adopted now by the Linux Foundation in Linux is pretty important to me. Yeah. It's a good indicator that that this language is going to be part of our future. Yes. I don't know if it answers the question, but
in my entity, we have a big base of code in ADA, and the problem is we cannot find some developer in ADA. So we know that in the future it will be a tragedy. So maybe we question: is there it is easy in Rust to be linked with a C program and or to and inverse? And is it possible to link an ADA program with a Rust program, maybe for technical, because it's important for us? No,
I can't speak for ADA. I never looked at ADA, but at least for C, I can tell it's easy. We do it for a few libraries at least on all major operating systems, and we haven't had any troubles beyond the pointers or regular pointer stuff on the memory locations. So at least for that it works. But ADA, sorry, I can't tell you.
Yeah, in terms of API, the compatibility is full. I mean, you can link a Rust lib with C code or C app. I mean, on the contrary, you can have a C app, a C library in Rust code, whatever. It's pretty easy to do it.
But maybe to add on this, I'm not a technical expert, but I would say, again, if you want your business unit, you want to test things in a safe environment, in a neutral environment, which is the environment of our school, you can propose a project. Just to let you know, on M1 and M2 years, which is the 2 last years of the engineering program, equivalent of Master 1, Master 2, we have each year a multi-student project, which is 4 or 5 students that work during a few months. They have specific weeks reserved for their project. So it's not a project they do on the weekend and at night, 2 days before the deadline. So we are one of the few schools who dedicate really time for the project. Each project, it's about 1,000 hour work. So in 1,000 hour work, they can do something. If you as a business unit of THALES, you propose a project to de-risk some technical issue, like, I don't know, transitioning from ADA to Rust, trying a routine or something, a functionality, safety functionality, or to measure the consumption or whatever on Rust, you can propose that. We don't ask you any money. We just ask you some time of your experts to be the coaches of our students. Any IP that would be created, any piece of code that would be created during the project that is of kind of interest for you, belongs to you, belongs to THALES. Our business model is not based on IP, okay? Our business model is education. So if we do a project like that, our students will learn how to work with a large company, we learn on technical issues, we learn on Rust, So that's our mission, and if you can benefit from that. So again, please be welcome to propose. We are in the very moment of the season to propose project for next academic year. So you can go through. Daniel and Daniel will go through. I will transmit to the guy in charge of projects. But it's a means where we could help the industry to adopt such a new technology.
I can add one thing. Maybe you all know at THALES, the ECE students, of course, you don't. We have an experiment right now at THALES about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. 8 projects were selected a few weeks ago for experiments in July. One of them is about transpiling C++ and Ada to Rust using artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence. So we make no expectation about it. We want to try it. Maybe it's going to work. Maybe it's going to induce bugs. We have no idea. But if it works, that could be really, really cool. Because, as you said, hiring people with ADA skills, forget it. Service companies working on ADA, one remaining. So it gets really complicated. If we can transpile code into Rust with an artificial intelligence, with an AI, that's a big thing.
Thank you. 2 questions, please. One short. Do you have an ECE antenna in Rennes?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
We are opening. Yes, so thank you for the question. We are opening a new campus in Rennes this fall. So we start with a bachelor program, but bachelor are very good professionals after 3 years. We open also learn and study, apprentissage. So you are from THALES, I suppose. So
Yes.
if you are interested, please contact me directly. So we are opening B1 and B3 year. So if you're interested, you can work on that. And yes, we are going to have new graduate students in Rennes, of course.
Okay. And the second one for you. If we come back to your hope, how long did you expect or evaluate the time to your hope be a reality in THALES?
The use of Rust in THALES. It already started with you at Larouche. Okay, so that's réponse de normal. Let's be serious. It's going to take a few years. If it takes 2 to 3 years to have a first serious project, I mean something pretty big, adopting Rust as its main programming language, I will be extremely happy. But I'm not counting in terms of years. I don't know when. I know it's going to happen. The question of when is almost pointless. We need to go there. It's the with the other languages that we have a lot of problems. I mean, the cost of memory management in C++ is huge. And every time we deliver a piece of software, we must check that there's no crashes, because a crash in a critical environment could mean the death of people. So that's a no-go. Having a way better memory management and thread model, a simple thread model in a language that is fairly easily adoptable by C++ engineers, I can buy that. Yeah. So be it 2 or 5 years, I don't care. I know it's going to happen. It's almost mandatory for the group. I don't see any other potential solution. Go could be a solution. You mentioned Go at the beginning of your talk. The problem with Google Go is that the language is still in the hands of Google. So if you want to lobby the working group releasing Go for a given feature and Google doesn't agree with you, there's absolutely no luck for you. You won't be able to get it. In the Rust Foundation, it's a little bit different, because Mozilla, that originally made Rust, they're not, how can I say, they're not the masters of Rust anymore. They gave it to the Rust Foundation because they just could not handle it anymore. Is that correct, Paul?
Yeah, and well, to be clear though, it's not the Rust Foundation that controls the language either. The decisions are made by the volunteers in the project who run it. So we don't insist and couldn't insist on the features. It's a democratic process. It's based on consensus and understanding and need. So yeah, it's not controlled by a corporate entity or interest.
My question is for the developers. The question isn't clear in my head, so I will try to be clear. But how is evolving the technical depth in your opinion right now? Because as we saw, you moved from, for example, 60,000 lines of Python to 170,000 lines of Rust. So now that you have implementations in production, I guess, for several months, you said that my feeling is that the code is bigger, so it's harder to read it or to maintain, but the debugger and the compiler is more developer friendly. So what is your opinion on this? Is it harder to maintain, easier to maintain, and how the technical depth is evolving in time?
Well, I took the statistics like a week ago. So there's the statistics after a year more of developing the Rust agent, but not the Python agent. So a little wonky based on that. We have a lot of code that is for macOS only that we didn't have in the Python agent. So it egalizes a little more, but we have still more Rust code and we have no problem maintaining it, I would say. Or at least less than we had in Python, where even now when we have to look at the Python agent to see if we missed something because there is a bug in the Rust agent and we want to see if it was already there, and we just ported it or not, and we introduced it. It's still horrible, and we still cry each time. And so overall, I would say Rust is much more maintainable, simply because the compiler is so helpful. And they talked about Clippy. Clippy too, we use it all the time in CI and locally. Rust is also more maintainable because Python is cross-platform, but you don't know until runtime that it is really cross-platform. And Rust, we can just cross-compile everything and check at least at compile time that it seems to work. We can make mistake, we can check a length and forget to check it somewhere else, but that usually isn't such a problem.
To developers, have you already tried GitHub Copilot or even ChatGPT to assist you in writing some Rust? How did it go?
Yeah, I used a bit ChatGPT. It was sometimes helpful, and sometimes he said some mistakes. Like he gave me code that didn't work at all, or like invented some stuff that didn't exist at all in Rust. But I think he can be used if you already know a bit of Rust, like if you gave him food before, because I was still learning Rust, so I was maybe asking things too big, and so yeah, he was helpful, but sometimes not so much, and he was saying like he wasn't thinking, maybe because I was asking stuff not possible. And
I can add one thing on that. Don't forget that ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot use GitHub as a corpus. And even if Rust sees a big trend in numbers of users, it's still only 1.38%, I think, of GitHub. Meaning that the minimal set of documents necessary to reply correctly to all queries in Rust is probably not reached yet. It's, if you ask a question about JavaScript, if you ask a question in C or JavaScript, ChatGPT answers fairly well, unless you dive into very technical stuff. Rust or confidential languages, I'm not sure it has the corpus. But it's a question of size of the behind.
So my question is maybe a bit too technical, but we'll see. My question is on memory safety, memory management. So I understood that Rust guarantees at compile time that your memory is safe, but that relies on the fact that you not declare unsafe block of codes. And my question was that do it happens a lot that you need unsafe blocks of code? I think, for instance, in the Linux kernel, dealing with the hardware, it might happen quite a bit. I don't know if you had the necessity to use unsafe blocks of code.
At La Ruche, we did not have the opportunity to use unsafe.
On the contrary, we use unsafe a lot because interacting with any Windows API, macOS or Linux is unsafe. It's C underneath. And we haven't had problem linked to unsafe directly, as in something double freed or a pointer used after free, because very early in the development we made wrappers for everything, and we banned the method except in a specific file, for example, or something like that. And it's very important that way, because we can concentrate every review on this and not the other part after that. We saw some crates which we contribute to that didn't do that. It was a little horrible some time, and we helped some crates notably move from this because they were having troubles maintaining this. So yes, it can become a problem at scale, and you have to be proactive in maintaining it. But it's easy to search for unsafe in a Rust code base. It's not easy to search for unsafe in a C code base. So we have a lot of unsafe. I would say maybe like 10% of our code is around unsafe. We need to be aware of it, and it's not a big problem for us.
Okay, and another question on the ecosystem this time. So you mentioned that you had to rewrite some of your ML code directly in Rust. So it's on the ecosystem. If you had to, suppose you had to rewrite the application, you or of course La Ruche, and using C or C++, which is language where there's a lot of ecosystem, would you have used a lot more of external libraries to use it? So in the end, currently, are you rewriting a lot of things in Rust that in other language you would just have used the ecosystem to give you the libraries?
First, I think if we wrote a security product in C or C++ today, we will be a joke, literally. On C would put us against the wall and threaten us again until we didn't. But I don't think we would have used a lot of external library, at least for machine learning, because there are not a lot of directly usable. Often they are wrapped and they're made for Python and made to be wrapped in Python, but they're not usable directly for the language. At least from what I know, I'm not an ML expert, and especially not a CML expert.
Good question.
A question about tooling. How do you handle crate.io with regards to Artifactory, registries, and so on? And how do you use that or tools to create software bomb, if you do?
For using the crates in an air-gapped environment, we simply duplicate all the crates we need and have
a local registry that serves them. And for you mean the SBOM file? Okay, we are not using it for now, but we are looking at it. And there's a tool that parse cargo log file to create a SBOM file. But we're still researching it for now.
So this is more of a general question, both for Rust users and Rust maintainers. So most of the presentation were around classic executable files like PE files or ELF files. Myself, I'm using Rust for WebAssembly application, and sometimes I'm working with other, let's say, exotic targets for compilation. So for Rust users, I was wondering if you already tried to use WebAssembly or other kind of exotic compilation, and how does that went in terms of support from the language and support for the outside ecosystem, and for the Rust maintainers, if there was some insight about the choices of the support of WebAssembly or other kind of more exotic architectures, because for example, in WebAssembly, Rust is one of the most, if not the most advanced language with the support for WebAssembly in the browser, but also outside of the browser, which is things we are exploring in THALES right now. And except for C, I think Rust is really the most advanced language on this. So I was wondering your general insight.
I guess I can speak on both maintainers and users. Have you ever heard of crane lift in Rust? Actually, the Rust compiler is a front end in Rust and LLVM on the back end. And there is an alternative backend which is called crane lift, which is written fully in Rust, which was originally made to generate WebAssembly. So there is a lot of work on that. And I don't work on it, so I can't tell more about the details, but it exists. And there are a lot of presentations and talks on YouTube if you want. On the use side, I have a website somewhere in WebAssembly. I don't know the URL from memory.
Yes, so on this topic, simply to explain what we do, we try, of course, to avoid dynamic linking, as you explained. So we explore building some execution runtime that we write in Rust to indeed load and run data functions that are sandboxed in WebAssembly. So yes, you're right. It takes a little time to evaluate the several WebAssembly libraries and engines that we have, but we are confident that we can this year demonstrate that Rust is the ideal language to execute WebAssembly functions. And also we plan to use that not only on the edge, but massively on the backends, because it contributes significantly to reducing the footprints or Kubernetes cluster, etc., by just reducing all these data processing applications we have. And we need help on this topic. So I spoke to your project. Indeed, this is typically the kind of project we would like to submit, because the more we explore these topics, the more we are confident to find the right. And if I may, we also need help on the data topic, because we spoke a little bit of machine learning, but before going to machine learning, we also need to have confidence in the libraries that are good at manipulating data structures like vectors, matrix, etc. And Rust is my perception is that Rust made tremendous progress in the libraries that are now available, but we are not yet there. People are actively working on the kind of libraries that you have in the Hadoop ecosystem, for example, and that are now ported into the Rust. So I expect that in the coming 2 years from now, we will be well equipped also to manipulate large data sets, which opens yet more interesting doors.
Questions? One question.
So I work for THALES Research in Holland, in the Netherlands. trying to convince more of my colleagues to start using Rust. One of the questions that I get a lot is in the office we're using Spring a lot for rapid prototyping and building on and other things. Are you aware of any such dependency inversion projects in Rust being developed?
Why?
So in terms of UI, you have a port of Qt for Rust that works fairly well. I know that at least a dozen of big projects are using it. So you're probably using apps written in Rust on Windows without knowing it. You can probably easily use libs written in Rust in Electron for web-based applications. That's probably easy to do because I know that we can already do it with C++ libraries. So doing it in Rust would be pretty useful in my opinion. I'm about equivalence to Java, because that's your question really. Equivalence to Java libraries, Java UI libraries. I must admit I don't know. But so many people are interested in writing apps. I mean visual apps with Rust, but I'm pretty sure that it exists. We have so many ports available. You know? Oh, okay. Other questions?
We had a lot of examples of what we should make or what we could make or where Rust is interesting. On the contrary, do you know some kind of topics or frameworks or applications where Rust is really not designed for and not a good fit for? For example, last time I saw making a GUI, a native GUI, is not a good fit for Rust. So I don't know if it evolved that kind. I have the same question from everything that web related. It goes towards the good way, but I don't know. And we saw with the machine learning, so with an interesting twist of learning it on the Python side and executing it on the Rust side. That are my what I saw. Do you have other facts on this?
I think you asked the part of Rust where Rust cannot be used well, or at least integrated well. UI is a big problem currently. There are ports of other library. There is Qt, there is JTK, there is a lot of work on the web with WASM, but it's always wrapping something else, and often you see the limits. There is a low-level limit in Linux around the IO Uring library, which is a little annoying because Rust lifetimes don't play well at all with the IO Uring concepts, and I don't think any language like form play well with it, but it works. And other than that, I have no real idea. I know Rust is used in ML, but not as much as Python. It works, just there are like 10 Python against 10 developers against 10,000. They will lose.
If we take the list of companies that Paul have shown earlier today, Google, Huawei, Amazon, Microsoft, all these kind of people, Samsung, I think, and Huawei. So they are using it for storage, servers, they are using it for some apps, they are using it for training ML. At least Microsoft Research is doing it. They are using it for AI, bindings for Android. Google uses it for Android. So I suppose that if Google uses it inside Android, they have almost 1.8 million of lines of code as of today. So I suppose that some of them are linked to UI. It's unreasonable to have 1.8 million lines of code without UI behind. So it's not fully backend. Gaming uses Rust. GTS. Railway systems use Rust. Siemens uses Rust a lot. I think that at least 3 BUs of Siemens rail systems use Rust. Apart from the big names of software pieces that you have on your laptop, like spreadsheet, document editor, things like that. I think Rust touches everything, and in fact, it touches also the web browser, since the rendering engine inside Firefox is partly in Rust. So Firefox Quantum is partly in Rust. So they merged Firefox Gecko and Servo to make the rendering engine of the current Firefox. So it's almost everywhere. I don't know about real time. Do you know?
I used it a little when I was doing an internship at Thales, and it was embedded stuff like porting an OS from Rust to another architecture. So it was not real time, but almost real time, and we had to do a lot of assembly and Rust together.
Right. Well, if you want to know, try with our students, because embedded systems is one of the main topics we teach our students. We are known for that. A lot of students actually do internship in Thales on embedded systems. So do not hesitate to come and de-risk this kind of topic.
More questions? Or are we done? Okay. Last one. Yeah, sure. We don't meet every day, so let's take the advantage.
So thank you for your presentation. And for me, the main concern about Rust is the time to master the language, to understand all the concepts that are behind, in order to implement something which is Rust idiomatic, and not only something like C code. And so my question is, how long do you think you need, from your feedback, to understand completely the language in order to use it smoothly and easily, I would say? Because yes, well, that's my question.
We said earlier 2 months for a developer, Larouche, to be comfortable with Rust. After that, it depends. There is multiple steps. Sync Rust, it may take longer. The tool helps to write idiomatic code, so it's pretty immediate.
We had an intern that didn't know Rust last year, and he came at the start of a week. 2 weeks later, he was capable of writing safe Rust. 2 months later, he was capable of writing unsafe Rust without breaking everything. And we're using his code as unbroken, so thanks to him. So 2 months for someone who knows how to code but doesn't know the Rust. For someone who doesn't know how to code, I think it's harder or longer.
I think it relates to something that we all know in software engineering. There's a difference between the people writing a framework and people using a framework. Okay, it's not because you can use React, for instance, but you could write React itself. It's not because you use Qt that you could create Qt. Okay, so to use Qt or to use Rust, I agree, 2 months, roughly 2 months. It took me 2 months. To be able to imagine a new feature in the language, or be able to create a crate from scratch, knowing everything, all the bugs, all the things you have to know about unsafe and packaging and things, a little bit more, but not 2 years. It's just a question of a few months. being able to contribute to a project, I would say 2 months. Being able to master a project, I would say 4 months. Do you agree with that?
So if I may to do the advertisement of EEC, because my dear Daniel, nothing is free in this world. No, there's a project, but of course internships. So we offer internships for companies like THALES. So 4 to 5 months internship in year M1, very technical internship. So you can also propose internship for our very clever students. And also a 5 to 6 months internship at the end of their years in the school, which is an internship that can go into hiring after you wish. So you have also 2 opportunities to propose internships for students to work on your subjects in THALES.
More questions? Okay, so thank you very much. Let's call it today. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you again.